The fluorescent lights of the arcade buzzed overhead, casting a sickly glow over rows of gleaming game pods. Leo had won the lottery, literally. His name was pulled from a digital drum, granting him a slot in the new immersive experience, Heart's Desire. The premise was simple. Get the male lead's affection to 100%. Win the game, walk away with $10 million. Easy. He slid into the pod, the gel cushion molding to his form. The world dissolved into static, then light. A jolt, a sensation of falling, and then nothing. No cheerful system voice, no tutorial, no interface. Just silence. The system had glitched, cutting him adrift. But it didn't matter. He remembered the briefing. His target would be the only one with silver-white hair in a sea of brunettes and blondes. Find the hair, find the prize. When he saw him across the crowded high school hallway, Leo's breath caught. The boy leaned against a bank of lockers, a textbook under his arm. His hair was the color of moonlight, a stark, brilliant white against the drab beige of the Letterman jackets around him. A breeze from an open window stirred it, revealing a face of such startling, ethereal beauty it made Leo's chest ache. Pale, luminous skin, a lean, athletic frame, an air of detached coolness that seemed to push the noisy world away. But it was more than that. The boy looked exactly like his idol, Ethan Shaw. Ethan Shaw, the actor who'd vanished from the spotlight 2 years ago to study abroad. Ethan Shaw, whose posters still plastered Leo's bedroom walls. This had to be a game designed with Shaw as the blueprint. Perfect. Fresh out of college, Leo found himself back in high school, a transfer student with paperwork that appeared as if by magic. The principal, a man with a too-wide smile, waved him in. He spotted the name on the spine of the white-haired boy's notebook, Elias Vance. For a solid month, Leo pursued him with a single-minded determination. Daily offerings of potato chips, chocolate bars, cans of soda. He'd trail him on walks across the football field, chattering about nothing. Elias never spoke. Not to him, not to anyone. The file had said he was isolated, a lonely figure. Leo's heart went out to that imagined fragility. He loved the idea of piecing together something beautiful and broken. The silence only fueled his campaign. The day 6 new guys transferred in, filling the last empty desks. Leo was too busy fighting off a post-lunch nap to hear the teacher's remark about the group being complete and the game being ready. He certainly didn't notice the peculiar, evaluating glance Elias slid his way. That night, in dorm room 204, he met 3 of the new transfers. They shared the space. The other 3 were next door. Their faces were pale, drawn. A guy named Chad in a faded college sweatshirt fixed him with a stare. Chad wanted to know if Leo was a player too. Leo nodded, assuming they were rivals in this dating sim, fellow guys here to win the heart of Elias Vance. Chad muttered something about the numbers being off, about there always being 6, not 7. Their complexions grew ashen as the night deepened. Chad suggested they draw straws to see who would retrieve the first key. Leo, bewildered, asked what key. He drew the short straw. The others looked at him with a mix of pity and relief. Chad explained the game's current prompt placed the first key in the male dorm supervisor's office. Leo shrugged. He'd met Supervisor Brenda, a cheerful woman who loved baking. How hard could it be? He didn't understand the others' tension. Chad mentioned a bonus for retrieving a key, $100,000. Leo's eyes lit up. He was in. As he left, another guy, Mike, warned him he had to be back before midnight, or he wouldn't make it back at all. Leo figured Brenda just locked the doors. No big deal. The hallway was deserted, cold. The hum of the vending machine was the only sound. Leo used his phone as a flashlight. He reached Brenda's office door. A shape detached itself from the shadows further down the hall. A boy in a torn jersey, crawling, his face a mask of dark, wet crimson. And below the knees, nothing. Just dragging fabric. Terror turned Leo's bones to water. He spun and ran, blind with panic, until he collided with a solid, cool form. He looked up. Elias Vance looked down, those impossibly clear eyes wide with surprise. Leo clung to him, instinct overriding sense, the words he whispered to Ethan Shaw posters tumbling out. He called him baby. The term of endearment hung in the silent hallway. Elias's beautiful face was a portrait of shock. His voice, when it came, was like ice water trickling down stone. He asked Leo to repeat himself. This was the first time he'd ever spoken to him. Leo, still terrified, babbled for help, calling him baby again. He glanced back. The crawling thing was gone. His heart hammered, but he didn't let go, wrapping himself around Elias like ivy. He saw a flush creep up the other boy's neck, a crack in the glacial composure. Despite the scare, Leo's mission snapped back into focus. $10 million. He buried his face in Elias's shirt, the fabric soft and smelling faintly of detergent and something like winter air. He mumbled into his chest that he wanted Elias to be his. He'd been pursuing him for so long. Wouldn't he please say yes? He felt the rigid tension in the body he held, but no push away. Elias's question was measured. He wanted to know if all those gifts had constituted a courtship. Leo blinked, confirming it. What else would they be? A deeper blush stained Elias's cheeks. He stammered, asking if Leo's preferences leaned toward men. Leo laid it all out. Yes, he liked guys. Yes, he liked Elias. It was love at first sight. He was exactly his type. He couldn't help but pursue him. Would he be his boyfriend? Elias's gaze shifted away, uncomfortable. He stated flatly that he didn't like guys. Leo wasn't discouraged. The prize was too big, and this was a romance game. The protagonist had to be attainable. He declared he'd just keep trying until Elias changed his mind. Elias's long lashes fluttered, but he didn't answer the declaration. Instead, he told Leo to get down. Leo refused, holding tighter. A month of work for this proximity? He wasn't letting go. He claimed he was still scared, though the fear was now mostly performance. He saw the strange look in Elias's eyes, but still, he wasn't rejected. Clutching Elias's arm, Leo recounted the horror in the hall, suggesting it was a sick prank. He believed in science, not ghosts. Elias agreed softly, saying it was probably just a mean-spirited joke. Leo huffed about how not funny it was. Elias's lips quirked. He asked why Leo was out so late. Leo confessed he was looking for a key, supposedly in the supervisor's office. Elias looked at him with an intensity that felt heavy. He told Leo to go ahead and look. Leo seized the chance, pleading for company, afraid of another prankster. He latched onto Elias's arm, a limpet, refusing to release him unless he walked him back. Elias yielded. A glance at his watch showed 11:56 p.m. Mike's echoed. He grabbed Elias's hand and sprinted for the dorm. They burst through the main doors, Leo gasping. The clock in the lobby read 12:03. He sighed, figuring Brenda had forgotten to lock up. Lucky. Remembering the key, he hurried to her office door and knocked politely. He asked if she had a special key he could have. Behind him, Elias watched, an amused tilt to his mouth. Elias spoke up, his tone casual, telling Brenda to just throw it out. The door cracked open. A red key skittered across the linoleum. Leo scooped it up, thanking the unseen woman profusely. $100,000. He waved a cheerful goodbye to Elias and headed to his room. He knocked. No answer. He heard Chad's voice from inside, trembling, calling him a ghost, a trick. Leo argued for rationality, for materialism. They didn't believe him. Frustrated, he trudged to the empty room across the hall, 206, and crashed there. The next morning, when he emerged, Chad and the others stared as if he'd risen from the grave. They asked if he'd gotten the key. Leo, remembering caution about flashing wealth, said no. Chad's expression was unreadable as he called Leo incredibly lucky. After that, Leo moved his stuff into 206. He didn't trust them. In class, Elias was at his desk. Leo approached with a bag of gummy worms. A greeting. Unlike before, Elias looked up. Leo offered candy. Cool refusal. Leo ate them himself. But during lessons, he felt it. The weight of a gaze, light but persistent, settling on him like dust motes in a sunbeam. A few nights later, half dreaming, Leo heard distant screams and roars. A heaviness pressed him down into deeper sleep. The next day, 2 of the 6 new guys were gone. Transferred, the teacher said. Then came test day. The teacher, a woman with a fixed, bright smile, announced an exam. Only passing students could stay. Failing meant consequences. Leo groaned. A test in a dating sim? Ridiculous. He missed the part about punishment. He noticed Chad and the remaining 3 looked terrified, far beyond normal test anxiety. The exam paper was a nightmare of advanced calculus and matrix theory. Senior year material? Leo dropped his head to the desk with a thud. He glanced desperately at Elias, who was watching him. He mouthed a plea for help. Elias, perfectly calm, whispered back that he didn't know any of it either. Great. 2 clueless guys. Leo scribbled nonsense, hoping for partial CR. Elias left his paper blank and went to sleep. Afterward, Leo felt lighter. A bad grade couldn't stop him from romancing Elias. But Chad and his friends looked hollow, faces etched with a despair that seemed fatal. That evening, heading back, Leo saw 3 large boys corner Elias near the gym. Their postures screamed trouble. Leo's mind connected the dots. The lonely, beautiful boy, a target for bullies. His moment to be a hero. He marched over, stepping between them and Elias, pulling the silver-haired boy behind him. He told the trio to back off or else. He'd taken martial arts. He didn't see the flicker of surprise in Elias's dark eyes, a depth that suddenly seemed endless, nor the slight, almost imperceptible nod Elias gave the 3 guys. One, a guy with a buzz cut, sneered and asked what if they didn't stop. Leo answered with his fists. A few minutes later, all 3 were on the ground, groaning. He turned to Elias, grinning. He told him not to be afraid, that he'd protect him from now on. Elias's gaze was inscrutable, swirling with something Leo couldn't name. He asked, his voice soft, if Leo truly meant to protect him. Leo affirmed it, giving his shoulder a reassuring pat. He didn't see the 3 bullies on the floor exchange exasperated looks before closing their eyes. Elias studied him as if trying to decipher a difficult code. Then he smiled. A real, unguarded smile that hit Leo like a physical blow, scattering his thoughts. His heart did a funny, frantic dance. This was different from the distant admiration he felt for Ethan Shaw. This was sharp and sweet on his tongue. Later, in the teacher's lounge, the same teacher handed a stack of exams to Elias with deference. Elias took a red pen, pulled out a paper labeled Leo Walsh. A few minutes later, a soft laugh escaped him. A note of tenderness colored his murmur as he observed that not a single answer was correct. The next day, grades were posted. Chad, 61. Relief washed over him. Another guy, 65. Mike, 56. The last, 58. Their faces went gray. Then, Leo Walsh. The teacher paused, giving him an odd look. Leo braced for disaster. 70. He almost cheered. 70. Random scribbling for a win. Chad stared, dumbfounded. The teacher approached and dropped a blue key on Leo's desk, calling it a reward. Leo pocketed it, thrilled. Another cash-convertible item. Elias sipped from a juice box Leo had given him. His usual water bottle was cracked, and his eyes held a gentle warmth. Back at the dorm, Chad blocked his path to 206, demanding the blue key. Leo laughed, asking who made him boss. Chad threatened him. Leo brushed past. The next morning, his neck was stiff, but he thought nothing of it. In class, only Chad and one other remained. Leo mentioned it to Elias, who was eating a bag of cheese puffs. Elias said simply they dropped out. Bad grades meant expulsion. Leo was horrified. What if he failed next time? Elias's eyes glinted with something fleeting. He assured Leo it wouldn't happen. A week later, Elias was absent. After school, Leo went to the convenience store. Elias had developed a taste for these specific cheese puffs. Leo bought a bag to deliver to his apartment. The building was sleek and modern. Leo knocked. No answer. The door was unlocked. He stepped inside, calling out. The bathroom door opened. Elias stood there, a towel around his hips, hair damp, water tracing paths down his neck, over his collarbones, disappearing into the terry cloth. Their eyes locked. His lips looked especially red. He asked, his voice a low rumble, what Leo was doing there. Leo's heart thundered. He held up the bag, stammering about a snack delivery. Elias nodded and walked to the sofa, dropping the towel from his shoulders so it pooled at his waist. He sat, utterly at ease, and opened the bag. Leo couldn't look away from the exposed skin, his mouth dry. He grabbed a glass from the coffee table and gulped its contents. It was sweet, peachy. Elias's hand shot out too late. He explained it was a mixed drink, fairly strong. Leo, already feeling a buzz, asked for more. Elias said there wasn't any. Soon, the room softened at the edges. Elias said he'd walk him back. Leo stared at his mouth. The mission timeline pressed on him. 2 months, almost up. No system to check affection meters. He was failing. The alcohol and the sheer, overwhelming appeal of the boy before him made him bold. He stood, wobbled, and let himself fall forward, pinning Elias to the couch. He looked at those lips and closed the distance, kissing him. He had to accelerate things. Elias went rigid, his ears turning scarlet. Leo, fearing resistance, used his own necktie to bind Elias's wrists loosely. Elias asked, his voice husky, what he thought he was doing. Leo, drunk and desperate, declared he was taking a more direct approach. He was going to make him love him. As his fingers fumbled with the towel's knot, a mechanical voice pinged in his mind. His system was back. Then it delivered a catastrophic correction. A system error had sent him to the wrong game. This wasn't Heart's Desire. This was Nightmare Asylum, a survival horror title. Furthermore, the person currently beneath him was not a romanceable NPC. He was the game's final boss, a player whose memory was suppressed, programmed to kill all others after 7 p.m. The clock on the wall read 6:57 p.m. Ice flooded Leo's veins. The strange occurrences clicked into a horrifying new pattern. He asked the system what to do. The system, apologetic, stated it needed to emergency log off to preserve itself. The scene was pixelating. They would reconnect tomorrow, assuming Leo survived. The connection severed. Leo stared down into Elias's eyes, which were darkening, a faint crimson hue bleeding into the irises. He forced a weak smile and mumbled that he was suddenly very tired. Elias smiled back, chillingly pleasant. He encouraged Leo to continue. Leo, heart hammering, pleaded a headache and shut his eyes, pretending to pass out against Elias's chest. He felt a hot, intent gaze on him. Either he'd be killed in his sleep or he actually truly drunkenly fell asleep. He woke up alone in 206, sunlight streaming in. His neck was intact, and around it, on a thin chain, hung a gold key. His system pinged, amazed. The boss had given him the third key without any task completion. It explained the keys: red from the dorm supervisor night, pre-midnight, blue from passing a random exam, gold from the principal's office night, multiple deadly obstacles. Leo had the set. He asked if he could use them to leave. The system said no. The keys were a trap. Players thought they unlocked a chest containing a time stasis gem to kill the boss. But this boss had evolved. The gem wouldn't work. Following the normal path meant a gruesome death. And this boss had a perfect record. No player had ever left alive. No one got any prize money. Despair washed over Leo. So Elias gave him the keys to raise his hopes before the inevitable cruel end. And after Leo's drunken assault, his fate was sealed. The system offered a lifeline. It could extract him in 1 week after recharging. He just had to survive unnoticed until then. Leo agreed fervently. He would hide. He asked the system to check Elias's affection rating. Couldn't not hear, but it promised to look once they escaped. Leo was sure it was in the negatives. He went to class, now seeing the school for what it was. A stage populated by daytime NPCs who turned monstrous after dark. He requested a seat change. Denied. He was stuck beside the sleeping volcano. Elias, smelling of clean linen and crisp apples, held out a hand. He asked where his morning soda was. Leo, flustered, said he'd forgotten. Elias just nodded. Later, Leo tried to return the gold key. Elias told him to keep it, to not give it to anyone else, to finish what he'd started soon. The confirmation of the trap. Leo decided to hoard the keys anyway. The system said they were worth money if he could somehow get them out. He began avoiding Elias at lunch, claiming a diet. Elias frowned, told him not to, and left. He returned before class with a bag full of sandwiches, fruit, and cookies, placing it on Leo's desk. He told him to eat. Leo was stunned. A reciprocal gesture? Perhaps the boss was just polite. Days later, Elias cornered him, his brow furrowed. He pointed out Leo had stopped pursuing him. Leo stuttered that he didn't want to be a bother anymore. Elias's expression cooled. He asked for confirmation that the chase was over. Leo nodded. A strange, sharp smile touched Elias's lips. He said that was fine. Then he asked why Leo, with all 3 keys, hadn't opened the chest yet. Was he having second thoughts? Leo, sweating, just nodded again. Elias's gaze was penetrating. He told him not to hesitate. The chest was in his dorm room 206. He said he'd see him that evening. The words were a death sentence. That night, Leo returned to 206, his mind on the system's extraction at 6:30 p.m. It was 6:15. Chad passed him in the hall, giving him a strange, lingering look before darting into his room. Leo ignored it. Inside 206, a worn antique chest sat at the foot of his bed. He looked at it, and a sudden, piercing pain spiked through his skull. His limbs locked, paralyzed. The door burst open. Chad and the other remaining player, Mike, walked in. A black, beetle-like insect crawled from under Leo's collar and skittered to Chad's hand. The system screamed about a surveillance parasite planted days ago, now injecting a paralytic. Chad knew about the keys. Leo could only watch as they tore his room apart. In 2 minutes, they found the keys taped under his bed frame. Leo tried to warn them the keys were useless, but the system vetoed it, citing anti-spoiler protocols. Chad slapped him hard. The sting was nothing compared to the cold dread. Mike suggested killing Leo to split the grand prize, rumored to be astronomical, 2 ways instead of 3. Chad agreed. Leo felt the chill of genuine mortality. The system whispered it needed 30 more seconds. Mike raised a knife. Then, in a blur, he turned and drove it into Chad's side. Chad gasped, betrayal dawning in his eyes. Mike crowed about taking the whole prize. But Chad, with a final surge, pulled a blade from his own pocket and slashed Mike's throat. Mike fell, gurgling. Chad, bleeding badly, turned his murderous rage on the paralyzed Leo. He raised the knife. Agony exploded in Leo's chest. Then, a lifting sensation. The system announced extraction was complete. His perspective shifted. He was floating near the ceiling, looking down at his own bleeding body on the floor. The dorm room door shattered inward. Elias stood there, his white hair stark against the gloom. His face was a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. Chad, clutching the chest, scrambled out the window. Elias fell to his knees, gathering Leo's limp form. His hands trembled as he touched the still warm cheek. He whispered Leo's name, a broken sound. He held the body for a long time, refusing to let go. Leo, a spectral observer, felt a confusing ache. This wasn't the reaction of a predator toying with prey. The clock ticked past 7 p.m. Elias's eyes flooded with solid, glowing crimson. He placed his palms on Leo's chest. A soft white light emanated from them, enveloping the body. The system explained he was trying to use in-game admin commands to revive him, but the avatar was too damaged. Leo asked the system if they'd been wrong. The system had no answer. Elias bent, his fingers brushing Leo's lips. Then he leaned down and kissed him gently, desperately. He pulled back, tucked a blanket around the body, and promised in a low, deadly voice to be right back. He was going to make them pay. Leo followed him unseen. Elias stormed into the principal's office. Chad was there, tied to a chair, babbling about the chest being empty except for a piece of paper. The principal, a grotesque figure with one half of his face normal, the other a ruin of sinew and bone, stood holding the open chest. He presented it to Elias with deep reverence. Elias took out a single sheet of paper, folded into a heart. Leo drifted closer. Written on it in elegant script were the words, "Yes, I'll be yours. I already am." The realization was a physical blow. The changed contents of the chest. The choice to open it. It hadn't been a trap. It had been a confession. Leo remembered once, in class, sighing over a girl's love note, joking he'd never gotten one. Elias had been listening. Chad, comprehending, stammered that Elias was the true master of this world. Elias looked at him, all trace of humanity gone, replaced by a terrifying, ancient fury. He stated that touching Leo had been an unforgivable error. Chad's pleas were cut short. The scene dissolved into final, silent darkness. Leo felt a pull. He looked at Elias, standing alone in the wreckage, a figure of immense power and utter desolation. He reached out a ghostly hand. Then he was blinking under the bright lights of the arcade, strapped into the game pod. A technician with a headset was apologizing profusely for a catastrophic server mismatch. Leo sat up, a single tear tracking down his cheek. He asked if death in that game meant real death. The technician adjusted his glasses. In most horror modules, yes, players signed waivers. But the one Leo was routed to was different. Its boss was also a player with amnesia. The win condition was being killed by an NPC that was surviving the narrative. The grand prize, a separate thing, was triggered by a specific pre-programmed act by the boss player. Leo was told he was the winner. The grand prize was his. The hidden trigger had been met. $100 million. He was numb. He asked who the boss player was. The technician cited confidentiality. He mentioned the other players. Mike, killed by a player, game over. Chad, who killed a player, won, but was penalized by being forced into a truly lethal next round, which he did not survive. A week later, Leo wandered a downtown shopping district, the weight of his new wealth meaningless. He missed Elias with a constant, hollow ache. He understood now his feelings had become real. He paused before a massive digital billboard. It displayed an old promotional image of Ethan Shaw, smiling, his hair dark brown. Leo's heart clenched. The resemblance was uncanny, yet different. He shook his head at his own fantasy. Ethan Shaw wouldn't be in a game. A black town car pulled to the curb. The rear door opened. A man in a tailored suit stepped out. He wore sunglasses and a mask, but his hair, it was a brilliant, familiar silver white. He carried the faint, clean scent of apples and linen. Leo's heart stopped. The man removed the sunglasses, then the mask. It was Ethan Shaw's face, but etched with a knowing depth, a gravity the posters never captured. His lips curved into a smile that was entirely Elias Vance. He spoke, His voice, the one Leo had heard in the quiet hallway, by the couch in the aftermath. Leo Walsh. We meet again. A pause, filled with the city's noise. Let me reintroduce myself.
I'm Ethan Shaw.
I'm also Elias Vance. He took a step closer. Leo, I love you. May I have the chance to prove it to you here? Leo didn't hesitate. He crossed the space between them and wrapped his arms around the man's waist, holding on as if to life itself. He buried his face in the fine wool of the suit jacket. You don't have to prove a thing, he whispered, his voice thick. The answer was already in the box.